so just want to welcome our attendees to the national season. Really excited for everyone to be here. My name is Katrina and I'm the CEO of Catalyst Games. I'm going to take a couple minutes to just do some housekeeping and then I'll pass it on to our moderator, Will Matthews. So just a couple of things. To earn volunteer points, you must be signed up for our volunteer platform. We do have some opportunities like this one where it's virtual events that you're hopping onto. But for the volunteering opportunities with our nonprofits, you do have to sign up for the Point app. So if you're a team captain, if you're having trouble with that, your team captain should have sent you that link to finish that sign up process up. And if you are having trouble with that or your team captain doesn't have the link, please reach out to Donald on our team. You can, he's actually on the screen right now, and he will help you with that. And then I know that one of the big things that everyone's going to be talking about is the leaderboard for the season. That's going to be a big hot topic. So those standings are going out every week. So make sure to sign up and share the newsletter subscribe link. Donald, if you don't mind actually just dropping that in the chat for everyone, that'd be great. We'll also go ahead and send that out as part of the event recap. And then big thanks to our event sponsors, Bennett Thrasher, who's our lead sponsor for this event, our supporting sponsors, Point App, Tito's, American Inno, Buffalo Trace, Bold Legal, and Hippopotamus in Atlanta. This conversation is meant to support a lot of the conversations that our participating companies are currently having right now. So a lot of you guys are talking about racial justice, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. And, we are going to be highlighting our seasoned nonprofits here today, how they're tackling that issue through their work, and what we can all do as entrepreneurs, employees, and business owners to support that. Just to give you a quick flow of the event, we'll be running for about 30 minutes with a Q&A at the end. So if you have questions at any point, don't be shy, drop it into the chat and we will make sure that we'll facilitate those questions at the end during the Q&A portion. Will Matthews is our moderator today. Really excited to have him. He has been leading a series called What Do We Do Now? As part of the Notley ecosystem and the impact conversations that we're having with the community. And, he's talking with business leaders around access to opportunity and racial justice. He's a philanthropist, entrepreneur, entertainer, former Longhorn, Detroit Lion, and he is living his life at the cross-section of profit and purpose. So I'm gonna kick it over to Will and I'll turn my video off. Will, take it away.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm so excited to be here. Not just because of some of the work that I've been involved in, but to me, these incredible nonprofits and some of the work that they're doing, I've had an opportunity to look over and go through, and it's amazing. So we're gonna get going. So how this is gonna go is I'm gonna ask the nonprofits, the members from the nonprofits questions. And they're going to answer. We're going to keep this going, almost like popcorn style. Be sure to take the time to explain, but we're going to keep it moving quickly, and I'm excited about this. And the topic that we're going to explore today is access to opportunity. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, I started to think back to all of the times that I needed something, or I needed to get to a place in life. I needed to get to the top level of an organization, to make an introduction, to ask a question, to get a resource, to get something. And all the wonderful people who took time out of their life and their busy schedule to send the elevator down for me. And I know everybody's got those times where you reached out to a friend and they're like, hey, let me connect you with this person. And in turn, they're actually sending the elevator down for you. So, and it's those kinds of things that actually change life. And so I got a couple of questions I would like to ask you guys, and just to help us understand a little bit more. Matt, we're going to start with you. What 3 areas of your organization that you would like to see either another organization send down the elevator for you, or that you would like to see an improvement of access to opportunity?
And did you say Matt? Okay, all right. Hey, we're all on Zoom all over the world, so the bandwidth. um, so what? So so it's hard for me to answer this question just because I feel like so many organizations have already been so generous with their time, talent, and treasure in terms of sending the elevator down. I think one way that, and please forgive me if this sounds self-serving, one way that we're trying to send the elevator down, and I think other organizations could as well, is granting that access. You had mentioned access, and so we are very fortunate to have several senior tech leaders in our universe. And one way that we're trying to provide or pay it forward with that level of access is through our Vision 2024 initiative. In Code to College, we expose our students to a variety of STEM industries through our workshops, through our after-school coding instruction, and them getting to work with software engineers and developers, but also mix and mingle with senior leaders. But in our Vision 2024 initiative that we launched this year, which has the explicit goal of placing 200 Black and Latinx women into STEM roles by the year 2024, each of those women, who we call legacies because of what they represent for their communities and for the tech ecosystem at large, each of them is paired with an executive mentor. And so some of them are presidents. We've got the president of Kendra Scott, Tom Nolan, who is the executive mentor for one of our young ladies. We've got the CTO of Favor Delivery, Owen Samuels, who's the executive mentor of another one. And so I think, if you think back to when you were a senior in high school or you were a freshman in college and you were just starting out, how different would your trajectory be if you had a CEO or some other senior leader as your mentor or one of several mentors? And so we're trying to deliver that access. And I think a lot of organizations have access to senior leaders and other folks who can open doors. And I think to the extent that they're able to share those networks with other organizations, or at least their beneficiaries directly, I think it can make much more of an impact than they may have even imagined.
Yeah, Carl, I'd like to, Mr. Settles, I'd like to throw the question over.
Sending the elevator down. Well, something that we've started to do here in Austin is we're really working together with sister nonprofits, and it's really building a creative youth development coalition. Creativity is what's driving our economy, and I made my living in technology, but if had nobody indulged my creativity, I would have never been there. And I think the biggest issue for students of color is that they don't feel seen. And what our focus is with our sister organizations is we're looking across all of our respective organizations and saying, okay, we are good at helping students feel seen, but we know that you can't eat a warm and fuzzy feeling, right? So they have to feel seen, but they also have to see an economic pathway where they can exist as who they are with their full creativity and see a pathway for themselves. And then the third leg of that three-legged stool is this digital divide and these digital literacy skills. So we're working in concert with these organizations. So one of the things we do is we provide curriculum. We have immersive storytelling curriculum. We're building this archive of oral histories of people of color throughout this region. And we're actually developing an engine that allows people to do that in any city in the world. So what we're doing is we're building a community of practice of right now that we can extend out to 12,000 students across Austin, ages 6 to 24, through our respective organizations. And we're focused on training the staff of those respective organizations in these storytelling techniques. And And the idea is that we're passing down these cultural and digital literacy skills where students feel seen and at these younger ages, and accelerating everybody's growth by the time they get to one of our high school clubs or a part of our Creative Leadership Academy. And we're working directly with the creative and technology leaders to build this platform and also have them work directly with our students. So it's really about, I guess the elevator is that there are lots of folks doing good work, but I feel like we feel very siloed in our approach. And, you know, even the folks that are here on this call, we work with the same students, a lot of us, right? So it's not just one of us that's going to make them a success. It's like, it's the collective. And so I think the idea for me is, how do we start to not lose out on those opportunities to leverage what we do together to have a far greater impact? So making sure students feel seen, and then being able to really help them be able to discern a pathway that doesn't mean that they have to eschew away who they are in order to, quote, be successful.
Okay. Nichole, I'd like to ask you, what is access to opportunity for you and your organization? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do here is we serve underprivileged and disadvantaged children. So we serve kids who already have the cards stacked against them. We're trying to support them, just like Carl said, with them being referred into our programs, but also us referring them out to other programs. We don't do everything. It takes a village to raise a child, is what we always kind of say. And so we want to provide opportunities to our children that they may otherwise not have access to. So a really big part of that is our scholarship programs. We provide sports, arts, and educational scholarships to our kiddos, ensuring that they have the same access to the activities they want to participate in as the peer that's sitting next to them in the same classroom. And so we work with different people who can help us fund those scholarships, but also we do sports camps. We worked with Emmanuel Sanders. He, had all of our kiddos out and he taught them how to play football. And we had like a kiddo who was just like, he touched Emmanuel Sanders and he went shower for a week. And so we're like, no, you got to go shower. And so, we're who would normally have had that opportunity. And so same thing, we were mentioning this earlier before we were broadcasting, but, as simple as band, there's a lot of us who participated in school activities, and band was just, my first instrument was always provided to me. And then we, rented after that. But, now band classes, they're hard to get into because you have to rent or buy your own instrument. And we have kids who apply and say, hey, I just want to play the tuba, or I just want to play the trombone or the violin. And, you think about, yes, you're giving a child an instrument, but you're actually giving them the opportunity to work with their peers, to have that, maybe they get really close with their band teacher or the group of kids. And, you think about all of that really involves them at school, which is where we want them to be. We want them learning. We want them to feel successful and have the opportunities to succeed. And so we try to always tell our story as, it's not just a band instrument. It's not just a sports scholarship. It's really giving that child the opportunity to engage at school, to engage with coaches and teachers and their peers. And that takes that child so much further than just a band instrument or a sports scholarship. And so I think we're always trying to see, where are we missing the gap with our own kiddos? We've built our programming, but we're always continuously improving on where can we help, our kiddos access different things. And so part of also that is we are building out a mentorship program as well. So we're going to work with our pilot program is middle school students on, where can we connect them, whether they need tutoring or someone that just is, their buddy and they can help them out. We're building that out right now. So it's just, that's kind of where we're at with making sure that we can provide the access to our kids. And we're always looking at, what are we missing and where can we help? And then also, who's also doing it? I mean, why duplicate it if there's already an organization that we can refer back out? Not reinvent the wheel, but it's a huge piece of collaboration. We work with 500 partners who refer families in, and we also refer back out to, so that the child is truly served holistically.
So SauPaul, can you tell me, what does access to opportunity mean for you and your organization?
Great question. Our entire organization is built on that. The organization, it's called the SaulPaul Foundation. It was originally called Reroute Outreach. It's we've been doing this for 18 years, and we changed it. And when we started, it's because, like myself, I have this unique story. I graduated from the prestigious University of Texas at Austin, same university I know that you went to, played football for. At that university, you know, only 3% of the population is African American. Out of 50,000 students, only 1,500 are Black. And then if you take away the athletes and those that came from not terrible backgrounds, you have a handful. I was one of those few. Like myself, my dad abandoned me before I was born. My mom died when I was 3. I was in foster care. I grew up in the ghetto. I was raised in extreme poverty, dealt with juvenile incarceration, ultimately adult incarceration. For my 20th, by the time I was 20, I was convicted of 4 felonies, and then the Texas State Penitentiary. And as I sat in prison, I realized that life is a sum total of choices you make. I changed my choices, changed my life. I got out of prison, and then I got into UT and I graduated. After I graduated, my first job was working at a television station. And I only got that job because of opportunity. There was a gentleman named Thad Rosenfeld. I shared my story with him when he came and spoke at the university one day. And instead of them judging me on my past, they judged me on my current body of work, which I graduated from the university with a 4.0. And they gave me a job, gave me a career. And that's when I really saw the power of relationship. That's when I saw the power of opportunity, because I wouldn't have got that job had they not opened that door. Fast forward, now I've done so many amazing things, 2 TED Talks, America's Got Talent, 5 Super Bowls, blah, blah, blah. I do keynotes at corporations all the time, and I like to highlight, I give keynotes and provide employee training and unconscious bias training at corporations where, honestly, I probably couldn't get a job working as a janitor because of my background. Like, it's not missed on me. But the reason why now that I get to rub elbows with CEOs and CFOs and CTOs and VPs and this and that, and we have partners like Dell and Adobe and HEB and these different organizations that work with us, but it's because of opportunity. And I was given the opportunity to show what it is that I do. And now I have a new body of work. And I realize for these young people, they need that same opportunity. Plus, we need to deter them from making the mistakes. I'm an anomaly. I think I should be famous because I'm good at playing this guitar and rapping and singing, and I look good. But that's not it. It's really because I'm the little Black boy from the ghetto who like checks every box of every statistic, but yet I was able to succeed. So yay me, but really we need to change that. We need to change some systems. That's what our organization works on, disrupting these systems, blowing those up and building new systems. And then we've created a different pipeline. And it's all about access to opportunity. One, in our pipeline, our program is called From Potential to Polished, so that they can get some of these jobs in tech, right? You know, only 2% of tech jobs go to Africa, or filled with African Americans, 8% with Latino. That's a very small portion. So it's 2 parts though we've seen. We have to prepare these students to be able to access these jobs. We start with them in middle school, and I take advantage. The reason why now the organization is called the SaulPaul Foundation is because as my profile has grown and changed. Earlier this year, I got nominated for a Grammy. That's great. What it really did was provide new access. And so as I grow, the organization gets access to these opportunities, and we leverage that access for our students. And then we bring in those people, those amazing individuals to be part of our virtual mentorship, our group mentoring, whatever it may be, and we provide that because we really believe and recognize the power of access to opportunity.
Thank you. Miss Rena, I would like to ask you the same thing. What does access to opportunity mean for you in your organization?
Yeah, because I know I'm a little bit the odd man out on this panel. I came to work at the Computer Museum of America as the first executive director in January, but the 11 years prior to that, I have spent in education reform. So access to opportunity has been a huge part of my life, and something I recognize, and something that even before I accepted this job, I had to reconcile that I could continue with this. So I kind of boiled it down as I was thinking this through. I thought, okay, we've got to have organizations who ensure that everyone has access to a device, a piece of technology. Yes, there's those groups. And we have to have the groups of people that are going to ensure that there's education in technology. And whatever they may name. My son minored in music technology, so technology. So it's in everybody, every walk of life. So we have to have those groups that are doing that. All of us cross over. We have to have the groups that are going to advocate on behalf of equity, and we all cross over in that. So what am I going to do differently at the Computer Museum of America? Well, I think what I have decided is absolutely imperative is that someone tells all the stories. So, right, we have to tell the stories of the hidden figures. We have to tell the stories of Ava Lovelace. We have to tell the stories of Jerry Lawson, who I didn't know about until I started watching High Score on Netflix. And he's an African-American man in the early days of gaming who was coming up with some of the first technology where you could have a home gaming console and switch cartridges, switch games. Before that, you played Pong. You bought the whole thing. You played one game. This was a totally new development, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not on our wall. He's not on our timeline. And so every day we run across people that need to be recognized. And there have been a number of surveys over the last number of years that just reinforce the fact that people actually trust what they receive at a museum, a historical museum, more than they do education and their teachers and their grandparents even. So I feel like we have a really huge responsibility to make sure that all voices, all faces are seen in technology. And we go way back, but anyway, that is where I believe we do something a little bit different. Yes, we want to have more STEAM and STEM classes. I want people to fund this organization so I can give scholarships to those that may need to have that scholarship, because we want to circle back around. What if that person has the next iPhone idea and they never had an opportunity to go to a class, so that idea didn't come to fruition? So we know this is a circle that we all work in, and everyone needs that opportunity. So that is what I believe Computer Museum of America offers, that is a little bit different, sweetie, from what I have done in the past. And this is brand new. You talk about access to opportunity just on a personal level. Museum work is not my background. And I was given an opportunity to do something very, very different. I did an internship in college, but I'm a little older than most of y'all, so that was a long time ago. So and I'm a Go Gators person. So you see, guys. Anyway, I think I think this is a great topic, and I hope that more and more people, no matter their walks of life, are realizing they have to send that elevator down. I love that metaphor. And lift someone else.
Thank you. Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about access to opportunity for you, and then also for your organization, and what that means?
Absolutely. Just real quick, I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's just been amazing. I really wish I could actually spend more time as a fly on the wall listening to what y'all are doing. And I really wish we could all sit down and get beers at some point in time. But Lord willing, in about like a year's time, maybe it'll be healthy for us and our students to get together. But we'll see. But anyway, about access. So as not to repeat what other people have said, I think like a lot of people said things around visibility, around like how creativity is kind of like the base level. People are talking about even like creating like a digital heritage, and being able to like give our students and the young people that we're working with a real sense of place now and in the future, and reifying the past. And at the same time, like when I look at that word access, or even the idea or the metaphor of sending the elevator down, I also like to look at like, what does down mean? Right? I don't want to get like too metaphysical or anything like that, but when we're talking about pipelines, even the elevator down is another pipeline. And I think maybe it was Carl who was maybe talking about other pipelines, or Saul definitely was. The school to prison pipeline is something that we're all addressing, right? But what are the positive pipelines that don't exist just yet? Because even in a situation where you're sending the elevator down, a lot of times the person who comes up in that elevator is now up on that floor in isolation. And so what ends up happening is like we end up finding like the rare people who can like who do make it, and then they are in an environment that is not set up for them, that they now have to like undergo like a Herculean effort, because they're dealing with a different level of gravity than everybody else around them. So in this, like with Youth on Record and a lot of these other folks, what we're trying to do is create alternative pipelines. So with us, we do a lot of stuff with music, but we would realize that it's a disservice to our students if we take a student whose heart breaks and they find their liberation through their music, and then we prepare them for the auction block of the music industry. I mean, so many of these things where the elevator goes up to are extractive industries. For like all the people working in Detroit, like what would Detroit be like if the music industry hadn't been set up to rob Black people of their IP for cents on the dollar? Like if all of what Quincy Jones's catalog is now worth billions of dollars, and all the people associated with him, if that had stayed in Detroit, what kind of city would that be? Like, what would we be looking at? What kind of different country would that be? So we are looking for different ways to coordinate with different industries and such who are looking to not just disrupt, but create alternate pipelines that actually make it possible for people like our students to be there and see people like them and thrive. Not just be an exception, but thrive. And that requires a lot of things. There's kind of an opportunity in this time where if the building isn't burning in which the elevator is, at least there's a constant fire drill right now. So with people running up and down the steps, like where are the opportunities that are like in this interrupted industry? Where can we find spaces within tech, within music, within any of these things? Like, because innovation is needed. And one of the things I think is so important about access, it's not just industry, it's not just our students who need access to industries, they need access to our students. Their creativity, their brilliance has been invisibilized, but once they get to see it, it's something that they need for real. And so one of the things we're trying to do at Youth on Record is kind of prepare a platform where our young people can say, no, we're not asking you. We are the resource that you need. And we are not going to ask for access. You will be sitting at the table with us. And once we're able to have all of those brains at the table, we're going to see a very different industry all across the board, and we'll see a different country.
Interesting dynamic. Turning it on its head. That's just because it is a back and forth. It's like we're coming to the table with things that we can give each other. That's beautiful. I think that's important to highlight. Access always comes with the relationship. My next question has to do with when you have an access point or a relationship or a friendship, a donorship or a mentorship, tell me how you manage that relationship well. And what does it mean to be connected to your organization? Carl, can we start with you?
Sure. For E for Youth, and the 4 E's are to engage, educate, employ, and empower youth. The relationship starts at a very early age. We have students that have been with us for 6 years now. We have alumni that started with us 13 years ago that are still in touch with us and still volunteer with the organization. You know, I think the idea of many students can't tell you what they're interested in or what they like. That's a huge problem, okay? More fluent students, they get access to private lessons, they get to indulge those things, and so they have a better sense of who they are and what is their voice, okay? And that's the fundamental thing that we have to address. So we have developed curriculum to say, okay, we call it employability curriculum, but it's really relationship building curriculum. And we say, okay, these are the things that you like. We help you unpack them. We say, okay, now we're going to educate you on how you can use those things to build a digital portfolio. And then based on that digital portfolio, we're going to employ you to do work for a real company with our partners throughout the creative and tech industries. And ultimately, that is what empowers you. And we do that every year. So now we have college students that we started this Creative Leadership Academy. A third of those 12 dozen or so, a third of those were actually in a high school club several years ago, right? And our senior creative mentors that are leading our clubs, they're getting hired by national, international ad agencies, creative firms, technology companies like Tableau. We had a young man, he's 28 years old. He had a degree and he was a line cook at a restaurant. And he became a creative mentor. We continue to help and work with him. And now he's an assistant engineer at Tableau, right? And so the idea for us is that it is the relationship, and that relationship doesn't stop. And I think what things that I've learned over time, I remember the first young man 13 years ago that he got an internship at a local ad agency. I was like, all right. And, you know, our mistake was we just kind of threw him over the fence and say, hey, I hope that works out for you, right? But the fact of the matter is we needed to continue to check in with him. And it's an iterative type of thing. It can't be just, nobody can make you love somebody, but we love our students. I don't, you know, it's an autonomical, I don't know, side effect of what we do as an organization. And so we never stop. We don't think the relationship ever stops. And what we are continuing to try to do is to strengthen that fabric. Because I know that I can't mentor everybody, but I can create an ecosystem where there are lots of people that are replicating what I'm doing on their own, within their own spheres of influence. And so how do we continue to scale that? That's really at the core of what we do. And I think the culture that we've established, it automatically makes the students that are more advanced, they want to go back and they want to invest in those students that are coming before them. And they are able to even read the tea leaves because they've experienced those things before. So it's a long-term thing. I don't think it ever really stops.
Rena, I'd like for you to tell us the importance of your relationships and access and what it means to connect with you.
Yeah, and this was we're a history museum who really doesn't have much history yet. So as far as a lot of relationships and we just have not built that yet and working to do so. But COVID certainly threw a little bit of a wrench in our plans, but we're getting there. So currently I'm working with 100 Black men to start with their mentorship group in the Atlanta area. So that's a large group, and I've worked with the group before, so I'm really excited about that. And with Girl Scouts of Atlanta to provide, I think, career exploration, STEM career exploration. So I'm working with these groups, you know, right now on ways that once we're released out into the world again, that we can, you know, start right away helping. But when I was thinking about this question, I also considered where we could have possibly said no to someone. I'm thinking of our volunteers, because we have volunteers that run from age 15 to 82. And there is certainly, we have some very young, really enthusiastic volunteers, the kind where you kind of have to say, okay, let the guest walk through all by themselves now, because they get really excited about what they know. And then someone who is well into their 80s, you know, that seems kind of fragile and, you know, are they going to relate to the guests? Well, if we had declined their offer to volunteer, that relationship, we would have severed a very good thing. Yes, some of our enthusiastic youth, you have to manage them a little bit. And there is some life lessons I think they are learning in the process. But they are excited and they're so knowledgeable. And in a lot of cases, a few of them don't have the opportunity to show that they can be really good at something. And it's a nice thing to be able to watch and know that you're a part of that person growing into the adult that you want them to be one day. And then on the flip side, some of these folks that are a little bit older, the stories they bring with them. I can sit back and watch, a 30-year-old be totally engaged with this 82-year-old who worked on punch card machines in the 60s, but the stories are being told, and there's an oral transfer of history. I'm not positive that's the question you're asking, but I was trying to think of relationships and access to opportunity, and I think we have given opportunity to 15 and 16-year-olds who really may not have been able to get a job at the grocery store bagging groceries. And we did have to wonder, do we do this? And we've done the right thing by saying yes, and the same for someone who is older. So I hope that's the question you're asking, but the relationships are important, and anything that helps us to connect with our guests. Mm-hmm.
So SaulPaul, would you, how are people connecting with you? Where are the access points inside of your organization? And tell me a little bit about that process.
Awesome. Well, our organization was founded in Austin, Texas. That's where we're based at. We have national clubs. The way we're set up, the way we work with organizations and corporations, we work with businesses and nonprofits because, as Nichole said earlier, it takes a village, and we recognize that. So locally, we have partnerships with the various school districts. Like, for those, I know some folks here from Austin, so like Austin ISD, Manor ISD, Del Valley ISD, Leander, Pflugerville. So we have relationships with them. We work with K through 12. We have different programming for elementary, generally like 4th and 5th grade, as well as middle school and then high school. Outside the country, I know we have some folks in Denver and Atlanta. We have team members in those cities. The way that we grow the organization and the way that we work with corporations is, like myself, being a musician, I travel quite a bit. I saw the way that I said there was a lot of meat on the bone. I would go somewhere, get booked in the city, go to a city. Like when I went to Denver, it was for the National Restorative Justice Conference. And I'm a keynote there, what have you. And then I get to meet people and they're like, hey, we should work. And we already have systems. We've been doing this for over decades. So we know how to like go to a community and create impact. And we create a space for others to play a part. But we discover in all the various communities we go to, there are individuals in the community that want to play part in changing young people's lives. There are people in the companies that want to play part. So we bring those systems and we set it up. I like to say, I set myself on fire, people come around, and then we connect so that there's sustainability. Then we remove ourselves from it, but then it's a self-sustaining model. So we go plant that, kind of like a missionary or an evangelist. So we go out like that. We create these. The way we work with organizations, we create opportunities. We help corporate social responsibility divisions of organizations be more impactful with what they do. I saw a need when I was getting booked and paid a bunch of money just as an artist to do outreach. And we would do this one big time event. They spent a bunch of money and it really wasn't, the ROI was terrible. But they were content. They get some press. It was in the paper, it was in the Forbes or Fortune or whatever, however they promoted it, and they were like, good to go. And I was like, wow. But they didn't know, right? Like, they didn't know they had a problem. Just like most tech, when you don't realize it till it exists, and you're like, dang, that's good. And it was like, there are better ways to do this. And especially shining light on great nonprofits that are local and doing the work consistently and making that connection, and then providing our curriculum that we created so that people can take it and employ it. So that's kind of how we value relationship, and that's how we grow our organization. It just piggybacks along what I do. Again, that's why we had the name change. I talk about it because I really was uncomfortable with it, but my team and everybody else, it made sense. We've invested a lot in the brand SaulPaul, but we get to leverage that, connect it to organizations, and then really create these opportunities for these young people.
Stephen, what is the role in relationships and where that comes with access for your organization? How is the access being mutually shared between out externally and internally?
Well, I love what Carl said about love. There's also a great teacher, Dr. Bettina Love, who's written this book, We're Trying to Do More Than Just Survive. It's about a methodology of abolitionist teaching, trying to truly liberate our students. And when we're talking about relationships, if you don't have a true sense of care for your students, there is no relationship. There is no medium. There's no liberation. And there's no way that they can trust you enough to foster relationships with other organizations, and they'll know that those relationships can be trusted in a very real way. When we're talking about we have the elevator and if we have the pipeline, I think the most beautiful thing about a pipeline in that invitation is the bidirectionality. So you can actually invite outside partners into relationship with the students, into relationship with the philosophy, and then we get to truly grow. And I think that's what we're all talking about. We talk about the marketplace of ideas, and that's one thing, but also in the marketplace of ideas, certain ideas are worth more, depending on the color of the skin of the mouths that it comes out of. We have to interrupt that. So we have to have these relationships that allow something other than a marketplace of ideas, but just an actual conversation. So in that, Youth on Record, we spend a whole lot of time cultivating relationships with people who get it or say, I don't get it and I want to learn how. Because I think there's also another aspect where big corporate partners, they need to be trained. They need to be trained in how to take care of our students, because we have to be transparent here. Corporate structures are not trained to take care of Black children. They're not. They're not trained to take care of BIPOC students. No, business as usual has actually meant that we've been excluded from these conversations, to the point that, Rena, at your museum, yes, there are plenty of BIPOC contributors that have gotten us to this tech place, but because of how tech is even seen, those contributions, those voices are invisibilized. That's the way it always works. And unless we interrupt that, those relationships of trust won't be there, because business as usual means that they don't get seen and they get ground up and extracted and used. And that's not what any of us are setting it up for. So and one of the things I'm hearing from all these other organizations is that we're trying to build relationships of trust, even with these industries, to make sure that there can be something better than that, that there is an alternative. And in that alternative, we can probably find something where all ships rise, truly.
Yeah, all ships rise. Nichole, would you walk me through some opportunities of access for you and your organization? How are you managing relationships between students? How are you managing relationships outside? And bring that all together for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently invested in an evaluation manager who did a really in-depth evaluation of our programming. And last year, based on that, we realized that families that we serve need to be on site, receiving services, working with our case managers at least 3 times in a 9-month period to start feeling safe with us, to start feeling that they have some type of protection against all the negative factors that are going on in their world. And so we've really dived in deeper, and we've built up our case management program within this past year. So we're actually building better relationships with our clients on a day-to-day basis. We're not just seeing them here at we have a resource center where families can come in, shop free of charge for clothing, basic essentials. It's providing a dignified experience, but unless we're diving in deeper with that parent, with that child, you're giving them items, but let's go further. Let's build that relationship. Let's build that trust with each family that as much as possible. And so I think we have to invest in looking at ourselves and our programming and what we could be doing better and what we could be doing more for our families, as well as the relationships, and Rena, you touched on that, the volunteers. I mean, they're coming in and wanting to access all the different ways that they can help their community. I mean, we have clients of ours who do volunteer with us, who do donate clothing that their kids have now outgrown, and they drop it off before their next shopping appointment. And so they find their own ways to give back. And I think it's a huge attestament to what, yes, we do to our families, but also what we are doing for our community. We're providing these volunteers access to support and give back. And we actually have volunteers as young as 5 and older can come in and volunteer. And yes, they can only do so many things, but they love it. They love to come in and they love to help out. And, we have youth helping youth. And I think that is just so strong. It's one of our That's one of my favorite things. I started as a volunteer coordinator here at Precious Child, and so my passion is behind volunteers, and we wouldn't be able to do what we do without our volunteers coming in. And to be able to see, you know, a 5, 6, 7-year-old volunteer with their family unit as a whole, not just the older kids get to volunteer with mom and dad, but the whole family gets to come in and support and learn what it's like to give back and what it is like to be, you know, privileged. We have a ton of volunteers who have more access than, you know, our clients do. And now they come in and they see, okay, this is what's going on in my own backyard. This is what's going on in my own community. And they're actually having that ability to see that at such a young age. And we're growing these youth up to make that change. And I actually oversee a youth advisory board of 50 9th through 12th grade students. And these are, you know, exceptional students who are saying, what else can we do? Yes, you let us volunteer, but we want to do way more than that for your organization. And sometimes I feel like a mom of 50 kids at 29. I don't know how that happened, but they're all like these little children of mine who are just like, let's do more, let's do more. And I'm like, okay, let's do more. And so they're, you know, they're bringing up the conversations themselves. They're saying, we want to go, you know, and make a change, you know, at the different protests that are happening. We want to go down and say, hey, what can we be doing better for the clients that we're serving, that we're supporting? And, you know, they're bringing these conversations to us as well. And they're saying, hey, how can you guys support us in making this and having our voice heard? And so I think they're so inspirational in saying, yeah, we're 14, yes, we're 15, but we're going to make a difference. And this next generation, I think, is just going to take over the world. They're a strong-willed crew, and I think it's just fantastic to be able to see that. And I think the relationship of youth helping youth is just tremendous. You know, peer-to-peer access is just, I think, huge for our families, but also the volunteers that we serve as well.
That is great to see. There's hope out there. There are things going on. There's stuff worth fighting for. We have a question from the attendees. I'd like to get each of you to answer. We're coming close to time, so I'd also like to carve out enough time to make sure you guys talk about your opportunities, volunteer opportunities that you've made public for the next month. So as we answer this question, if you take about 30 seconds to talk about the opportunities as well. We got 10 minutes left. So it leaves us all about a couple minutes to get this one done. So the question is, how have you seen COVID change the needs of the student you work with, and how did you see your organization and others pivot to help? I think this is a great question. SaulPaul, let's start with you.
Perfect. So we have 120 seconds each, people. I gotta be me. Y'all talk long. Y'all talk too long. This is not that. I just use 15 of my seconds just to say that. Cool. So the way we made the pivot is our upcoming event that we're having in 2 weeks is called STEAM Week: Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. We've had this event annually for 7 years, but we obviously can't do it this year because we gather in person. We made the pivot and we went virtual because it's virtual. It worked out to our good. So now there are no geographic limitations. What we do during this week, it's an expo. We bring in experts, mentors, amazing people that are curated, that can connect, that we facilitate panels and help the students understand what career options exist for them. It's from middle school to high school, and depending on where they are, then we connect them later to different programming that we have. The way it connects to the Point app, where people can sign up, people can come participate in the event live. People can set up, that's option one. Option two is arrange a time to be interviewed so that we can edit the video and incorporate it in the virtual event. We also have it to where for those that want to impact younger students, you can record. Option three, you can record a video. We all have a phone and we can record. And option four is you can read lyrics and we record that and we make great video. So all the opportunities are in the app. We made it easy. We've incorporated. It's fun. It's light, but it's very impactful. We always make sure that we remove the responsibility of people to have to figure out how to get out their lane and do something that they don't do, and figure out how to set them up to be successful. And that's what we do. And that's how we've pivoted.
Thank you. Stephen, can you, I saw that you wrote some in the chat box, but would you tell us how you guys pivoted to meet students' needs during COVID, and also volunteer opportunities from the next month? Your 120 starts now.
I'm going to try to abide by that. Yeah, so what we found out with COVID is that like all the students that we used to be able to see every day in classes in high school, like being able to see them like, and say like, hey, we love you, we care for you, we couldn't do that anymore. Also, we were finding that like all of our students immediately got shunted into a new kind of methodology of learning. Like we'd been in class, now they're digital. There's no preparation. So the biggest thing that we had to do is we had to shift our entire focus on content. We're like, okay, wait. This is not really the time to focus entirely on ethnic studies. This is actually the time for us to be able to talk with you and say, how are you? How is your family? Do you have what you need? How can we get you what you need? And then in the process, then we could talk about like their lived circumstance. And then we could talk about ethnic studies from their view. But the biggest shift I'm finding and now as we're going into this new school year is that we still need to be like at the forefront. How are you? What's going on with you? Oh, you didn't make it to class because you're working. Oh, no, you're taking care of 3 of your siblings right now. Hey, no, we got you. You don't need to be at class all the time. But if you can get your beat in by this time, or if you can get your thought piece or your piece of poetry in, working with our students, like it requires a high level of flexibility. And at the same time, now that all of our classes are actually in our students' homes, their families are a part of it. So we're working on like, how do we engage the families into the work? Whereas before we'd be working with the administration of the school. Now the school administrators are the people in the household. So how do we get them in on it to value it, to see like this is amazing, or like this is something that they want to see their child succeed in? Like all of those type of things have been kind of welcome, not just challenges, but actual opportunities. So like now when we have students turning in beats, like it includes samples from like 5 of their family members. Now we have them turning in Spotify lists from like their grandmothers and their grandfathers. We're bringing like, and we're talking about what were the kind of lyrics that they were listening to? What was the kind of music? Oh, check it out. Your grandmother actually listened to stuff that was way crazier than WAP. Yeah, you didn't know that. But like now that we're looking at these lyrics, we get to see like, we get to bring everybody kind of in. So I think there's always an opportunity in this. And then let me see, as I'm wrapping up, anybody wants to get involved with Youth on Record stuff, you can actually go to our website, youthonrecord.org. And there's a volunteer like whole section. We have a special thing called the Music Ambassador Program for anybody who's a musician, because we feel like anybody can contribute. So like, even if you're like a small indie band, or even if like you're maybe like you're like SaulPaul, like anybody can contribute to trying to make the future better for our students. So yeah, youthonrecord.org. I'll put the link in the chat as well.
Thank you. Rena, can you tell us the...
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we did, we're a really lean organization. So pivoting to a total virtual everything was just not something we just did not have the resources or expertise to do. But one of the things we have done, we are open a couple of days a week. Attendance is of course down. I mean, people are, a lot of people are still concerned about coming out, but we have a really large space. So, so far distancing has been easy. But we are offering fun family fun field trips. That's it. I get my alliteration a little mixed up. But we know that some students are in school, and we know that some students are studying at home, and some are in a hybrid. But one thing's for sure, no one is taking a field trip. And so we are trying to offer to all families a field trip possibility. You come to the museum, that we have some fun but educational, it's a little rigorous, up to 10 years old, and then the 10 and up to 18 years old, that maybe they could possibly get some extra credit with a science or a computer teacher. So we're just trying to give a field day experience, especially this fall. Hopefully maybe in the spring, people will be able to come back with field trips. So that's been the big thing with the, and you guys, the Catalyst Games really propelled me to do something that we needed to do. I was very nervous because, again, expertise, not so much, but we recorded a couple of videos. One was on the history of supercomputing and into the future, and one was on gaming. And so with the 100 Black Men, nationally, their organization does not want their mentors together just yet. So we're talking about doing the gaming and esports subject as a virtual thing. So if you watch the video that's out there on your Point app, it'll take you less than an hour. But we've got, you know, these really great speakers, one of which was a founder of a gaming company here in Georgia, and now has founded an esports. I had no clue Atlanta has 2 professional esports teams. And so I've also met someone else who works with the esports team. So I'm talking to these guys about, okay, what if we get a couple of professional players and they can join the conversation? And just like any athlete, there's an entire ecosystem around that athlete. There's lawyers, there's bankers, there's you know, just all of those people. And right now, esports, the industry, you have to add film and music together, and it still does not equal the money that's in esports right now. So there is career, you don't have to be, but access, talk about access. You don't have to be built at 6'8" to play football or basketball, or really big shoulders to play football. This is something that's accessible to everybody. You got a phone, you got some access. So anyway, that's just another thing we're doing that has been the result of COVID that I'm not certain we would have done. So I think Catalyst Games for that. And if you're a participant out there listening, go watch that film and get yourself a point.
Carl, can you tell us about the effects of COVID on your students, how you guys have pivoted to service their needs, and then also volunteer opportunities, and your time starts now.
Me or me? Okay. So COVID, am I doing that right? Am I doing that right?
You're right.
We're good? Okay. So COVID definitely had a huge impact on our programming. A lot of the stuff that we do is digital already. So we had to basically translate our enrichment clubs to a fully virtual setting. Well, something we also started doing is weekly virtual talks with different types of creative and technology professionals. And we started to build a library of those as videos and podcasts on our website. There's not really a repository where people can go to figure out what are these different types of creative careers. What does a creative director do? What does a copywriter do? What does an executive producer do? And these are well-paying jobs and opportunities. So we started to build that resource. We also, this storytelling VR remix party curriculum that we actually students can use open source tools to tell stories about any location in the world using a web browser and just free tools. So we've continued to do that. We're working with our sister organizations. We actually had, we got elementary and middle school girls to do that stuff online. They made vacation VR remix parties in 20 minutes. We took them from start to finish, and they were able to do that and learn some basic digital literacy and cultural literacy skills when they did that. And that's all part of a bigger initiative that we have to teach these kids these skills, because really what they're doing is product development in the storytelling that they do about their lives. With respect to our major volunteer thrust or opportunity for people that are participating in the Catalyst Games is we have a creative origin story video contest. So we're asking you all to basically record your 1 to 2 minute creative origin story. Who are the key people or key moments that let you know that you were creative and that you can make a living as a creative person. Use the hashtags E4OriginStory and Catalyst Games, and you can post those on Instagram. And we have a Creative Leadership Academy, which has about 50 college-age youth of color that we meet with every week, and we have internal and external talks. And so they will select the top 3 of those, and we'll invite you to come in and tell your story about your creative origin story to the members of the Academy. That'll be recorded and also added to our archive. I'll stop there.
Nichole, I'd like to get you to tell us, we're over time, but definitely want to.
Yeah, I'll go quickly. Just really quickly on our COVID, we're definitely seeing families more high stress, more high need, really needing the basic essentials that they're coming in for. But more importantly, we do a called a fill backpack program, and so ensuring that our kiddos start the school year with a bag of school supplies, backpack full of school supplies that they're in need of. The interesting part of COVID, it actually, we did more backpacks than we've ever done before. We filled more than 21,000 bags full of school supplies and got those out to our children before the first day of school. But the cool part is we actually did backpack kits. So we sent kids to school who were going in person with a backpack full of their supplies. And then we also sent the kids who are choosing to do virtual learning at home just a kit of supplies, since you don't need really a backpack at home. So we really got creative with our programs. I think COVID has just pushed all of us past where we thought our programming could go, where we thought our volunteer opportunities could go. Same thing, we really didn't have virtual opportunities before COVID, now we do. So on Catalyst Games, a lot of our opportunities are virtual. So whether that's making a blanket, making sure our kiddos, the cold season's rolling through. We already had snow this week in Denver. So making sure our kiddos have a warm blanket for the season. You can make that at home, as well as just hosting a virtual donation drive. We have Amazon wish lists, which you can share with your network, with your community, with your your friends, your family, your neighborhood, and help us get supplies in that we are in need of. There's a lot of different things that we are asking for as we get into the colder seasons. And then also, if you're in the Colorado area and you want to come in on site, we do have social distancing volunteering available, which is where you help us sort through items and donations and stock our store for families as they're still coming in to shop. And again, that's all free of charge to our families. So lots of different options, but appreciate everyone's time and appreciate being involved with you guys today. Thanks so much.
Huge thanks to our nonprofits today for hopping on and having such an open discussion. I hope that this was a great first step to learn more about what access to opportunity means in our communities and a peek into the work that our partners are doing. As you can see, it's really all very inspiring and they're taking on some big issues. Will, thank you so much for moderating. Carl, Nichole, Rena, Stephen, SaulPaul, thank you so much for being here. And thanks so much to the attendees for hanging with us. You guys have a great day and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.